Hey everybody, this is Comic Cuts by Rogue One Radio. This is our patron exclusive series where we pick a single comic book issue, trade paperback, or graphic novel, and somebody comes on the show and talks with me about it. This week, well, it's not this week. We don't do this every week, but for episode 2, we are going to be talking about Ghost Rider #1. Now, we're not talking about the original Ghost Rider. We're talking about the Ghost Rider, the current run, written by Benjamin Percy. And to talk about this particular issue with me is Spencer from the Dingus Den. Hey, Spencer, how's it going?
Oh, it's going good.
Good.
Looking forward to talking about this.
Yeah, we've been waiting for a while to finally get around to doing this, but yeah, so I went out and bought issue #1, and so when did this first come out? Was this 2022? Okay, so this is
about a year ago, I believe.
Yeah,
because they're on, I think issue 12 is the next one for them to come out.
And I believe they have at least one trade already.
Yes. The second one may be coming really soon.
Okay. So Ghost Rider, written by Benjamin Percy, as I mentioned, and looks like the artwork was done by Corey Smith. And the colors were done by Brian Valenza. And if I'm remembering correctly, you actually kind of recommended this one. I can't remember how we picked this one. I'm pretty sure you recommended it, though.
Sounds like something I would have recommended. This is a series I didn't initially put on my pull list, but I read the first one. And I was like, holy crap, I really like this.
Yeah.
So I then added it to my pull list, and I've been keeping up with the series ever since.
Very good. Yeah, I read some Ghost Rider, way back in the day. Like I read the original, some of the original Johnny Blaze stuff, and then I actually started reading some of the original Dan Kesh stuff as well for a little while, and then just kind of dropped off like way a long time ago. I didn't really keep up, but you recommended this one, and I opened it up, and here we have Johnny Blaze again.
Yeah, I like having Johnny Blaze in the spotlight here. It's nice to see him back, as opposed to whoever else has been. What is it? I think it's mainly miniseries. Like, I think this is the first ongoing Ghost Rider in a while.
Yeah, I think so too. So, so I read this one, and I think I might be missing just a little bit of the story. Like, I don't know what happened to him prior to the events of this issue. Like, something happened to him, some sort of accident, and I didn't really bother looking up.
That's part of the mystery behind this story that is explored later on.
So overall, I did like the issue. I will probably go and get the trade so I can read the rest, at least a little bit more of it, and see if it's something I want to continue with. But I did like it. There was a couple of things that I wish would have been done differently. But what are some things about issue #1 that you really liked?
So, I think issue 1 was a great foundation for the overall story. And I really like that from it being from a Marvel comic, this issue at least doesn't feel like your typical Marvel story.
Yeah, I can see that.
It begins right off the bat with having this, he's in this like therapy session. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like it's something explored that you don't often sort of get to see in much Marvel stories. And I really appreciated seeing a lot of that in this story.
Yeah. So kind of segueing on that, or kind of jumping off from that, I did really like the whole it's all in your head kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I see, like, if you haven't read this, this review of the comic is not spoiler free. So if you've never read it and you want to, um,
Important to
probably
know. It's
don't need to
important to
be
say
reading.
now.
Yeah, it's important to not um, listen to this before. Anyway, my point being, come to find out that basically it's this group of people that have been, I guess, keeping him medicated, so that they don't, um, so that he doesn't know he's Ghost Rider, or forgets that he's Ghost Rider, or thinks that Ghost Rider doesn't exist. Is that the impression that you got?
Yeah, it was. I'm trying
So
to remember what I thought back then.
so
Because
I liked that. I liked the
right,
idea that this was all just like, as far as he knew, this was all in his head. Like his whole
right.
history was all in his head. I actually, and this is kind of jumping into not necessarily a dislike, but something I wish they would have done differently. I kind of wish they would have kept that going a little bit longer. It seems like they jumped into things too early in the series. I would have liked to have seen that gone on for at least a couple more issues, and that's just me. But I would have liked to have seen more of that story, like
Mm-hmm.
him just thinking it was all in his head.
I,
But
I like that they. I didn't mind that as much, especially kind of seeing the format that the series does later on, especially mainly for its first arc. I'd say
mm-hmm.
it deviates from it a bit in the once you get into its second arc, but in the first arc, it kind of goes with more. Each issue is sort of its own sort of thing that it deals with, and so this was
Yeah,
the ultimate big setup for all of that.
gotcha. So that might make more sense later on.
And I appreciate that they actually went with a thicker issue number one, which
Oh
they didn't
yeah,
have to do to be able to fully tell this story and give it enough room to breathe and setting up a lot of elements. And so now that I've gone back and just reread it, I realize how much they've actually set up that they actually touch on like later on. Like there's a lot of things that they set up in this issue. Lots
yeah.
of foundations established, which is really nice, and they touch on a lot later on.
That's good to know. But you're right. This was a much thicker issue. Um, and then kind of jumping on something you'd said earlier, this was a good foundation. It seems like it's a good foundation for a larger story. I'm not 100% certain that uh, I would recommend this to somebody who has never heard of Ghost Rider.
It is definitely not a typical Ghost Rider story.
You kind of need to know a little bit about the mythos.
Yeah, I would say so. Like I'm not completely familiar, but I know the character, and so I could appreciate a lot of it.
Right, right.
And so, because I think I've only actually ever read like one other Ghost Rider comic run or comic arc, and I did not like it.
Yeah.
I don't
You're
remember
like,
which it was,
yeah, you
but
don't necessarily need to be a Ghost Rider aficionado. You just need to know a little bit about the character and his history.
right. Yeah, I feel like Ghost Rider, like, unless I just feel like he's kind of one of those characters that's harder to get into. Like, he is a very niche character, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. Yeah.
Having a guy with on a bike and flaming skull and fighting whatever sort of supernatural evils are out there.
Yeah. I mean, you've got a guy who's basically possessed by a demon
Mm-hmm.
going around fighting crime. So,
Right.
yeah, it's a little bit different than most Marvel comics.
Yeah,
Um,
and
yeah.
yeah, I really like how this issue and the series does it. Pretty much keeps up with how this is, of where it focuses more on Johnny Blaze and telling his story than
Mm-hmm.
trying to be like a badass Ghost Rider half the time. Because a
Yeah.
lot of times when people think Ghost Rider, they think, oh yeah, he just looks like this whole cool character, Fleming Skull, and chain on a bike and when wants to see, kick some butt, right? But this series doesn't necessarily focus on that. It focuses on more of what may be going on in Johnny Blaze's head.
Yeah.
And
That's what I was getting at. I kind of
right.
wanted to see more of that. I wanted to see more of them examining his mental capacity.
Mm-hmm.
But another thing I liked about it, we didn't get very much of it, but there was a kind of a subplot sort of story that actually only lasted a few pages. But I would really like to learn more about this character. I should probably look at it. What was her
Talk
name?
about Zeb.
Talia.
Oh, Talia. Oh, never mind.
Yeah,
Okay.
the FBI agent
Yep.
that's former Shield.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was an interesting little scene, and I
Yeah,
hope they dive more into that.
they do. I'll tell you that she becomes a bit of a prominent character.
No, that's good. That's
I think it takes a couple more issues to really get there, but once you get there, she becomes a big prominent character later on.
Yeah. But overall, like with the writing of the story itself, I think it was pretty well done. I think Benjamin Percy did a pretty good job with this character.
Yeah, I definitely think he did a really good job of telling the story all in one. Like something I really appreciate with it is just the way that he's able to tell like almost a complete story here, while setting up a lot of different aspects of what's to come in this series. And I feel like so many first issues don't give you the satisfying initial story.
Yeah.
Like especially like modern comics. Like there's not a lot of comics that I like. I'll pick up a fair bit of first issues I see, like just to check out something new, and not a lot make me go, oh wow, okay, I want to actually read more of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It definitely helped. I'm a Ghost Shredder fan from what I know of the character, but it just set up a really good foundation
Yeah.
where I just really appreciated what he told in this.
Yeah. I think it's definitely a good comic book, to a good writing uh, attempt to kind of hook you in. I did. It's definitely something that like I said, I want to check out a little bit more of the story and see if it's something that I will continue wanting to read.
Yeah, I like the whole.
Yeah,
Oh,
go ahead. Go
yeah, I was
ahead.
just going to say, like, I like the whole lead up to the end. So, this whole plot of, we don't know what's real or not, and then it's all revealed that it's this demon town that he's essentially been engrossed in. And then I like seeing that it leads up to that, like the final few pages sort of pretty much give like what people have been waiting for. And like, I think that's a really good lead up to actually being able to see Ghost Shredder himself.
Yeah.
And I really liked how they did that. And it gives you those few pages of the Ghost Rider that you came for. And I felt like it was a very satisfying lead up, and the dialogue at the end really it really tied into everything that was being told, and a good end point to make you want to read more.
Yeah. So have you read any other books by this writer, Benjamin Percy? The name sounds really familiar, but I can't place it.
I think so. I could try to look him
Yeah.
up really quick, but I don't know that name right off the bat.
Then, like, the name sounds familiar. It's not jumping out at me what he has written. Let's see. And he did.
Yeah, I'm looking.
He did.
Oh,
Well,
apparently he wrote some of the more recent Wolverine stuff.
yeah.
Rebirth, Green Arrow, Rebirth, Teen Titans.
Okay, the Green Arrow Rebirth is probably where that name is familiar to me from. And possibly, yeah, I don't
Oh, just
know.
one arc of it. Volume 6.
Yeah,
Green Arrow Rebirth. Green Arrow. Wait, no, Green Arrow Volume 7. Wait, what?
yeah, Green Arrow Volume 7.
Teen Titans Volume 6. He did a little bit of Nightwing. Did a
Okay,
James Bond miniseries.
now I got to pull up Green Arrow Volume 7.
Apparently, he's also writing the current X-Force run of comics.
Yeah, I'm actually not reading
And the current Wolverine comics.
Okay, so he wrote a lot of the New 52 Green Arrow stuff.
Hmm.
Okay, like that Volume 7. That's what they mean by Volume 7.
That makes sense. Volume 7, because it says 1 through 38. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah,
That makes a lot of
yeah.
sense.
Okay.
Because we're accounting for it being that iteration of it. That makes sense.
Yeah. That's probably where that name sounds familiar to me because I'm pretty sure that I read that entire run.
Yeah, I haven't read any of this other stuff at all.
Yeah, I don't think I have either. But so yeah, he did. So he's not somebody who's unfamiliar to Marvel. So there's that. But he did. I think he did a good job, and yeah, like I'm interested in seeing the rest of what he's going to do with the story, and you having already read, most of it, you have a leg up on me on this one. But so let's talk a little bit about the artwork.
Right.
First off, let's talk about the cover art. Now there were some variants to this.
Yeah, I got one of the variants because I think I got like probably the last issue available at my comic store, so I didn't have much of a option.
Yeah, the one variant that I got, and it may not even be the variant. This might be the official, if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm.
It was done by Kale Nagu, and I apologize if I butchered your name there, sir, or ma'am. I don't know, but yeah, it's got it's basically it's a pretty standard. It's got the picture of Ghost Rider riding his motorcycle, and it's a pretty badass looking motorcycle.
Yeah.
Not being video, you folks listening can't really. It's kind of hard to describe. It's just pretty awesome looking, but
that looks like the regular one.
Yeah. So, yeah, good.
And all the main covers are from that artist.
Oh, okay. But yeah, good cover art. And then as we get into the artwork from Corey Smith in the inside, any thoughts about the artwork in general?
In general, I felt like it captured the feel of the story really well. It was all. It had this darker tone to help fit the mood of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked how there's the color variation for any time he thought he was seeing demons.
Yeah.
So it did a really good job of differentiating whatever was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And when you actually get to seeing the different sort of demons and whatever there is, he does a good job with making them look creepy too.
Yeah.
Like the one that's revealed of who the therapist is. Like, I'm just looking at that one, and that one's a bit bizarre, and it's pretty crazy. All sorts of eyes sticking out, and it's weird. I don't even know where to begin describing that.
Yeah, I don't know. You'd have to see it, but so are there any like specific favorite panels that you could mention? Because there's a few that I can refer to. The first one that I will mention is actually really early in the story, and it's on page, I guess you can say that's page 3, uh, where it's a 4
Oh yes.
panel page, and it just has almost the entire background is dark, and the only light that you're really seeing is from the headlight of Johnny Blaze's motorcycle, and he's
Hmm.
just kind of coming at
Yeah.
you, and then you just kind of he like it's almost like you're zooming in with your camera to his face. I really liked that panel.
I actually really like the panel that comes right after that on the next page with the
Oh, with the
Ghost Rider School and the chains are
yeah,
all around it. Uh, I didn't think too much on, I guess, that panel in particular when I first read it, but going back to it's kind of like a cool foreshadowing of something to
mm-hmm,
come. You know
yeah,
what? Like, it's a story hint for later on.
yeah, good stuff. The other panel that I like, um, jumping back into the scene I was mentioning earlier with Talia Warroad. It's the last panel um, of that sequence where it just shows her face,
Mhm.
and the text isn't obvious. It just
Right.
the way he drew her, she just looks so psychotic in that
Right.
picture. So cool. Um,
Yeah, I really like that panel where you see Zeb
with the
giving the ball
baseball,
back,
yeah,
giving the baseball back.
yeah, that's a good one. Um, and then the last one I want to mention is trying to find it. It's toward the end. Uh, well, no, okay. I've got two more I want to talk about.
Okay.
The first one um, is it's one panel toward the end, and it's not sure how to describe this. It's like these bolts of fire coming out of his
Hmm.
head, and it's creating several other pictures on that
Yeah.
panel. I think. Let me just show you what I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah. No.
But
I
yeah,
just was just looking at it. Yeah.
it's crazy. It's like all this stuff going on in his head,
Hmm.
and it's just I like the way that was drawn. I thought that was done really well. But as you know, at this point, you can tell he's kind of getting pulled out of the Johnny Blaze persona, uh,
Yeah.
or the Ghost Rider himself is um, coming.
Hmm.
Um, which leads me to the last panel that I want to mention, and that is the very first panel of Ghost Rider himself that you get, where he's saying, "Who did this?"
Right.
Right before he says, "Who caged me here?" Um, I just think that is a very well drawn Ghost Rider.
Oh, definitely.
It's pretty awesome.
It's just one of those bits of where it's short but sweet when you
Yeah,
see Ghost Rider in this.
yeah,
And branching right off of that, one of the panels I was going to mention is the bit right before that, or I guess the sequence a bit right before that, of seeing
mm,
the visual of the spirit of vengeance actually being released and going back into Johnny.
yeah. That's good stuff. Yeah, so I mean, the artwork was really good in here, and definitely, like you mentioned, fit the story really well. And yeah, I'm pretty glad that this was recommended by you because it's a really good story. Um, like I said, it really kind of hooked me, And now that I'm mostly caught up with my somewhat somewhat caught up with my reading, I can jump in and try to find the volume 1 of this and see where that takes us, the rest of the story.
Absolutely.
Any other stuff you'd like to mention about this book?
I don't really feel like there's much more to really mention. I feel like we've gone through the whole story a good bit. I just a great setup that really does what's to come justice with giving a really strong foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't. And as we just covered, all the art's excellent. So like it has both halves of what a comic needs. It has it has the writing of a good story there, and then it also has all that art.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely one that, like you said, you did bring up a good point that you need knowledge, some knowledge of Ghost Rider, at least knowing the general idea of the character, else you'd be a bit lost.
Right.
But if you're somebody that does know who Ghost Rider is, at least just his character, mainly just the idea of the character is mainly what you need, and know that it's not quite your regular interpretation, as it's beginning in a very particular place, and where the story goes will explain what happened before, and then of course go into what where everything leads to and why certain things are that way.
Yeah.
And so overall I think it was a really, really good first issue. I mean, I feel like it was a bit stronger than a lot of other first issues I've read in recent memory. So I could definitely give it that, especially like I said, for Marvel. It's a very surprising sort of story coming from Marvel, I feel like.
Yeah.
And so I really like that they allowed this sort of diverse story and not your typical, I don't know, like another Spider-Man or whatever you'd normally expect to see from Marvel. This isn't that. It's a different sort of story.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely something a little bit different than what you normally see out of. I mean, you can kind of compare it in some ways to maybe Moon Knight, as far as the type of story that they're getting into here.
I'd say out of what's on screen for Marvel, that is the closest, but that's also kind of a bit far-reaching.
Yeah, for sure. But cool. So, Ghost Rider #1, if you haven't checked it out, probably definitely worth your time to check out if you're into kind of the supernatural aspect of superheroes. Very interesting superhero for you to read about. And but Spencer, thanks for coming on and talking with me about Ghost Rider #1.
Thank you for having me on.
All right, you have a good day.
You too.